View with teenage girl. The blue knit top with scooped out neck and column of gleaming buttons a boy could look at very, very closely and say in a hoarse, jokey voice, "How about I take a look at those buttons?" And after an age that no sound fills but a soft drumming in her ears, she would say, "So, you look with your hands, do you?" That's the summer she learns about two kinds of boy. One who replies, "Mm-hmm, sure do," and moves easily on, having basically been walked. And another who, missing a beat, feels sharply ashamed as though he's been caught stealing. So instantly hates her, hates all girls, even his mother, who appears for a ghastly second to actually be a girl, but that passes, and he gathers himself and manages a second try. And she loves him a little for being not simple, for his slight, incomprehensible pause, that small eddy in his excitement she finds so tender, as it pulls her into the current she has no real clue underlies it. Spring storm. Yesterday I burned the toast, so I went down to the rapids. It was not a bright morning. Close to shore, a small twig spun on an eddy. The eddy was frilled like a doily and seethed. The twig was helpless to go anywhere except around and around. On the horizon, plumes of smoke rose like poplar trees. There was the sun, punched into the sky like the sky's navel. The river pricked and lifted by windhooks. Mist puffing up, the sky black, then white. Columns of air I could have walked like pathways to waiting jets, walked into the skyhold. I'm telling you, then the river reared up like a dragon, scales flapping, the sun, smoke, the far faint islands, all collapsed in the froth of its lashing. I had never been so small, atomic. I was tossed. I have to say, maelstrom. I wanted out. I wanted time to turn back. When I felt the ground again, I was shaking. It seemed I could reach in any direction and touch the opposite shore, the islands, the mist and smoke. The gaps among things had closed. I'm telling you this because I have not been able to separate them, and now all wounds are nothing, are blips, leaf loss. Nothing resists. When I leave, understand, I will not be gone. Solstice night. A blue lake surrounds the house, snow restored by twilight to a version of its original self, stippled where wind and animals have crossed, barred by shadows of trees. And speaking of trees, shadows fly out from them like time traces of late summer bats and return. Everything dampens down. A sudden stillness, and the earth's tilt reverses. Gradually the first stars prick the sky around the moon's pearled curve. The last of the year's scrapwood is ready for burning. Also, a twilight everything turns from, stamping our feet on the platform waiting for the train, lined up on the curb waiting for the bus, blowing on our fingers. Young men shaking snow from their collars as they pass through the turnstiles and descend with everyone else into the tunnels and shopping concourses, into the wet stink, the grit and slush, blasts of heat and noise over the hornet hum of earbuds and ringtones, ignoring everything which is a form of love. Arm in arm a young couple stand in front of a window, brimming with tiny confections. He pulls off her hat. A sudden stillness, then breathes into the gold waves of her hair. And night opens before them like a dinner napkin, or like a carousel starting up, night as a state, moonless, starless yet spangling. We're burning everything we have. We're cheering ourselves on. St. Jerome in the park. Having wandered onto the trail because it led uphill, having swallowed a decaf grande non-fat latte and taken up walking again, having approached a quiet grove near parking and concessions, and lain down, under a not especially wholesome oak, one of few, not because of its wide authoritative trunk, nor the comforting, vaguely hand-like shape of its leaves, but quite by chance, or, as he might say to himself if he allowed explanations, drawn here, all unwitting, while thinking of something else, say the opacity of purpose, by inspiration, the God-breath. He lies here still, in his centuries-old dirty linen robe and twine sandals, ropey legs sticking out, darkened by leaf mash and years spent stumbling around the city's many dead ends, searching the port and the neighborhoods for entrances to the wild, his wire-thin arms twitching like a creature the birds have laid out, an effigy of himself dreaming the end of fire. In the distance, the foothills of another country. Nearer, the river. Nearer still, buildings. Now the animals, watching. Picnic. They choose a spot. How? The ground is level, the trees far off by the shore. Some arrangement of molecules presents itself, and the woman bends, spreads a blanket. The man, sitting now, hands her things from the basket, and calls to the children who are running giddy ant patterns in the space between the blanket and the trees. The river seems almost idle, its noise soft as paper towels being crushed. Now the adults get up, and they and the children swarm together a while before collapsing onto the blanket, their center, their portable hearth, where they lean on elbows and hips, catching the passage of day into evening in their hollows. Long after they leave, it will stay light, if only faintly, and the grass sprightly and green. Animal. Once I lay down next to a young puma, as if on the lip of a mountain. Oh, let's be frank, as if in the eye of some force. From his resinous gaze, light fell in waves of leaves. More to the point, he had a look that could open a quahog. The two halves of his chest were silver trout jumping up river. His groin, that singular tree, flared from the twinned fist with its urns of seed. At his feet, dragonflies clung to witchgrass. He might have arrived in a rush basket like a demigod, or bread and wine. First a breeze stirs. He gathers himself into himself, rippling. That still you can feel the air's skin. Then a gust, and the odor of lilies where his body has been.